You have been doing everything right. You cut the carbs, you added the exercise, you skipped the dessert for months, you tried the intermittent fasting, the low calorie diet, the long walks every morning, and the weight is still there. The belly is still there. And if you are anything like the women I hear from every single day, you have started wondering if your body has simply stopped listening to you. I need to tell you something that nobody explained to you when this started. It is not your willpower. It is not your discipline. It is your hormones. And more specifically, it is three nutrients that your body desperately needs right now. Nutrients that your menopausal body is almost certainly deficient in, without which your fat cells will not release, your metabolism will not cooperate. And no amount of diet or exercise will produce the results you are working so hard for. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly what is happening inside your body, why the old rules no longer apply, and what the science says about three specific nutrients that can change the game when you are over 40 and your hormones have shifted. I am not talking about magic pills. I am not talking about quick fixes. I am talking about nutrients that address the biological root causes of why menopausal weight gain is so different and so much harder than any weight gain you dealt with before. Before we start, drop a comment below. Tell me your age and how long you have been struggling with this. I read every comment personally, and I will reply with guidance specific to your situation. You are not going to figure this out alone. Let's go. Let me start by explaining something that I think will completely change how you understand your own body. Because until you understand the biology of what is happening, none of the solutions will make sense. Here is the truth about weight after menopause. It is not the same problem you dealt with in your 30s. It is a completely different biological situation. And treating it the same way you treated weight gain before is exactly why it is not working. When estrogen was abundant in your body, it did something remarkable. It told your fat cells where to go, mostly to your hips and thighs, which is why women have traditionally carried weight there. But estrogen also helped your cells respond properly to insulin, the hormone that controls whether your body burns sugar for energy or stores it as fat. And estrogen buffered cortisol, the stress hormone that, when left unchecked, drives fat directly to your abdomen and locks it there. When estrogen declined, three things happened simultaneously. First, your insulin sensitivity dropped. Your cells became resistant to insulin signals, which means that even on the exact same diet you have always eaten, your body is now storing more of what you eat as fat instead of burning it for energy. Second, cortisol lost its buffer. Hot flashes, poor sleep, and the ongoing stress of this transition all trigger cortisol spikes. And every cortisol spike is a direct signal to your body to store fat around the midsection and hold on to it. Third, fat redistribution shifted. The belly fat you are carrying right now is not the same as hip or thigh fat. It is visceral fat, fat packed around your organs, and a 2023 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that postmenopausal women have up to 49% more visceral fat than premenopausal women of the same age and BMI. Here is what most diet advice completely misses. You cannot willpower your way out of a hormonal problem. You cannot restrict your way out of insulin resistance, and you absolutely cannot out-exercise chronically elevated cortisol. These are biological systems, not character flaws, and they require biological support. So what does this mean for you practically? It means that before anything else, your body needs three specific nutrients that have the strongest evidence for addressing these exact three problems: insulin resistance, cortisol dysregulation, and chronic inflammation, the three root causes of why menopausal belly fat is so different and so stubborn. And those three nutrients are vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3 fatty acids. Let me take you through each one. What it actually does, why your menopausal body is almost certainly deficient in it, what the research says, and exactly what to do about it. Vitamin 1, vitamin D, 7 to 13, vitamin number 1, vitamin D. And I want to start with a statistic that stopped me cold when I first read it. Between 50 and 80% of menopausal women are deficient in vitamin D. not slightly low, deficient. The majority of women going through menopause right now do not have enough of this nutrient. And here is what makes this so significant for weight. Vitamin D is not just a bone vitamin, it is not just about calcium. In your body, vitamin D functions as a hormone, and it plays a direct role in how your cells respond to insulin, how your fat cells metabolize stored energy, and how your body regulates leptin, the hormone that controls appetite and signals to your brain that you have eaten enough. Let me explain what happens when you are deficient. When vitamin D levels are low, your cells become more insulin resistant. They do not respond properly to the signal to burn glucose for energy. Instead, more of what you eat gets converted to fat, particularly around the abdomen. Studies have found that women with higher vitamin D levels consistently have lower BMI, lower waist circumference, and less visceral fat. One study following elderly women found that those with higher vitamin D levels gained an average of 2 pounds less over 4.5 years than those who were deficient, even when they were not specifically trying to lose weight. But here is what makes this even more relevant to you specifically. During menopause, your body's ability to produce and process vitamin D drops significantly. Your skin becomes thinner and less efficient at synthesizing vitamin D from sunlight. Your intestinal absorption of vitamin D decreases, and the liver and kidney conversion processes that activate vitamin D become less efficient. So even if you were not deficient before menopause, the hormonal shift of menopause itself creates a perfect environment for deficiency to develop, completely independently of how much time you spend outside. And for women in India and other parts of South Asia, this is even more important than the global data suggests. Despite abundant sunshine, research shows that 70 to 80% of Indian women are vitamin D deficient, a rate significantly higher than in Western countries. The combination of indoor lifestyles, skin tone that requires longer sun exposure to synthesize vitamin D, traditional clothing that limits sun exposure, and dietary patterns that may not include vitamin D rich foods creates a severe and widespread deficiency that is directly impacting metabolic health. Now, I want to be honest with you about what the science actually says, because you deserve the full truth, not a simplified version. Vitamin D supplementation on its own, in randomized controlled trials, has not been shown to cause significant weight loss in women who are not deficient. The research is clear on that. But what the research is also clear on is this: women who are deficient in vitamin D have a much harder time losing weight, respond less well to diet and exercise interventions, and have higher rates of insulin resistance and inflammation. Correcting a deficiency does not guarantee weight loss, but continuing to pursue weight loss while deficient is like trying to run with your shoelaces tied together. What should you do? First, get your vitamin D level tested. Ask your doctor for a 25 hydroxy vitamin D blood test. The Endocrine Society defines deficiency as below 20 nanograms per milliliter and insufficiency as 21 to 29. You want to aim for 30 to 60 nanograms per milliliter for optimal metabolic function. If you are deficient, the commonly recommended supplementation for menopausal women is 1,000 to 2,000 IU of vitamin D3 daily. Some women need up to 4,000 IU to correct a significant deficiency, but this should be guided by your test results and your doctor. One more thing about vitamin D that most people miss: it is a fat soluble vitamin, which means your body cannot absorb it properly without fat. Take it with a meal that contains healthy fat. And it works synergistically with vitamin K2, which directs calcium to bones rather than blood vessels. If you are supplementing with vitamin D at higher doses, consider taking it alongside K2 for maximum benefit and safety. Vitamin number 2, magnesium. And this one is the one I find women are most surprised by, because it sits quietly in the background doing more than almost any other nutrient in your body. And almost nobody talks about it in the context of weight loss. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. Over 300. That includes virtually every reaction involved in energy metabolism, how your body converts the food you eat into usable fuel. It is essential for insulin signaling. It is critical for cortisol regulation. It is one of the primary minerals involved in blood sugar stability, and it is the most reliable natural intervention for improving sleep quality, which, as we will discuss in a moment, is directly connected to why you cannot lose weight. Now, here is the important part. Magnesium deficiency is incredibly common among menopausal women for two specific reasons that most people do not know about. First, during menopause, estrogen deficiency causes women to excrete more magnesium through their urine. Your kidneys literally lose more magnesium as estrogen drops. Second, cortisol, which, as we discussed, rises significantly during the menopausal transition, depletes magnesium. So the higher your cortisol, the more magnesium you burn through. And the more magnesium you deplete, the harder it becomes to regulate cortisol. It is a vicious cycle that runs entirely beneath the surface, with no obvious symptoms until the metabolic consequences are well underway. What does low magnesium actually do to your weight? Three things. First, it worsens insulin resistance. Magnesium is required for insulin receptors on your cells to function properly. Without adequate magnesium, those receptors cannot receive the signal properly. Glucose stays in the bloodstream, and more of what you eat gets stored as fat. Research published in 2025 confirmed that magnesium supplementation improves insulin sensitivity when taken consistently for 4 months or longer, and that this effect is particularly significant in women over 40 with metabolic disruption. Second, low magnesium raises cortisol. And elevated cortisol is one of the most powerful fat storage signals your body has, particularly for abdominal fat. Cortisol does not just cause you to eat more, although it absolutely does that by increasing cravings for sugar and refined carbohydrates. Cortisol also directly instructs your fat cells to store energy rather than release it, and specifically targets visceral fat for accumulation. So, when your magnesium is low and your cortisol is chronically elevated, you are in a constant state of biological fat storage regardless of what you eat. Third, and this is the one most women experience without connecting it to magnesium, poor sleep. Magnesium activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. It calms the nervous system, supports GABA production in the brain, and facilitates deep, restorative sleep. When you are not sleeping deeply, two hunger hormones go in entirely the wrong direction. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, rises. Leptin, the fullness hormone, falls. You wake up hungrier. You have more cravings throughout the day. Your willpower around food is genuinely measurably lower. And this is not a character issue. It is a hormonal consequence of poor sleep that is a direct result of low magnesium. What should you do? The form of magnesium matters enormously here. This is something most supplement labels do not explain clearly. Magnesium oxide, which is the cheapest and most common form, is poorly absorbed and mostly goes to waste. The two forms with the best evidence for menopausal women are magnesium glycinate, which is ideal for cortisol reduction, sleep, and muscle relaxation, and magnesium threonate, which has additional benefits for cognitive function and brain fog. For most women, 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate taken in the evening, around an hour before bed, is the most effective approach. It supports sleep, calms cortisol at the time of day when it is most likely to be inappropriately elevated, and provides the metabolic benefits overnight when your body is doing its most important repair and regulation work. You will often know within 1 to 2 weeks whether this is working. Better sleep is usually the first thing women notice. Then the cortisol driven sugar cravings begin to ease. Then, over weeks and months, the insulin sensitivity improvement starts to show up in the way your body responds to food and exercise. Vitamin 3, omega 3, and this one addresses the third root cause of menopausal belly fat, the one that most weight loss conversations never mention at all: chronic inflammation. Let me explain what inflammation has to do with weight, because this is not as obvious as it sounds. During menopause, as estrogen declines, the body loses one of its most powerful natural anti inflammatory agents. Estrogen suppressed inflammatory pathways throughout your body. When it dropped, inflammation increased. Not the kind you can feel as pain or swelling, but low grade chronic systemic inflammation that operates silently, and has profound metabolic effects. Here is what chronic inflammation does to your weight. First, it directly worsens insulin resistance. Inflammatory cytokines, the chemical signals of inflammation, block insulin receptor function. When your cells are inflamed, they become less responsive to insulin even independently of all the hormonal changes, already causing insulin resistance. You are now fighting insulin resistance from two directions simultaneously. Second, chronic inflammation promotes visceral fat accumulation. Fat cells in your abdominal region are more metabolically active and prone to inflammation. They both cause inflammation and are worsened by it, creating a feedback loop that makes abdominal fat extraordinarily resistant to loss. Third, inflammation disrupts leptin signaling. Leptin is your brain's signal that you have eaten enough. When inflammation disrupts that signal, your brain never quite gets the message that you are full, which is why so many women in menopause describe eating a normal meal and still feeling hungry an hour later. Now, omega 3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, the forms found in fish oil and algae based supplements, are among the most potent natural anti inflammatory compounds available. The research on omega 3s and menopausal weight management is genuinely impressive. A 2025 research review found that women supplementing with omega 3s experienced a 2-inch reduction in waist circumference. Another study found that omega 3s improve insulin sensitivity in postmenopausal women with metabolic syndrome. And multiple studies have documented improvements in the inflammatory markers that drive visceral fat accumulation when omega 3 supplementation is consistent and adequate. But omega 3s do something else that is equally important. They support mood stability and emotional eating. During menopause, the brain's serotonin and dopamine systems are disrupted by estrogen fluctuations, making many women more vulnerable to stress eating, emotional eating, and the kind of carbohydrate cravings that undo weeks of good choices. Omega 3s support neurotransmitter function and have been shown to improve mood stability, reduce anxiety, and specifically reduce cravings driven by emotional dysregulation. This is not a side effect, it is a core mechanism because you cannot sustain any nutrition strategy if your brain chemistry is working against you. What should you do? Look for a high quality fish oil or algae based omega 3 supplement. Algae based is ideal if you are vegetarian, and it is actually the original source that fish get their omega 3s from. You want to look at the EPA and DHA content specifically, not the total fish oil content. These are the active components. Aim for 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily. Quality matters here more than with most supplements. Look for brands that are third-party tested for purity, because lower quality fish oils can contain heavy metals or oxidized fats that actually worsen inflammation rather than reducing it. Take it with a meal for better absorption and to minimize any digestive discomfort. One important note: if you are on any blood thinning medication, speak to your doctor before starting omega 3 supplementation, as it has mild blood thinning effects at higher doses. How to use all three together. Now, here is what makes these three nutrients so powerful when you understand how they work together. They are not three separate interventions. They are targeting three interconnected systems that are all driving the same problem. Think of it this way: vitamin D restores your cell's ability to hear insulin signal properly, addressing insulin resistance at the receptor level. Magnesium calms cortisol, improves sleep, and further supports insulin signaling, addressing the stress hormone cascade that is locking fat in place. And omega 3s reduce the inflammation that is amplifying both of those problems and independently preventing your body from releasing stored fat. When all three are deficient simultaneously, which the research suggests is extremely common in menopausal women, your body is fighting metabolic headwinds from three directions at once. No diet can overcome that. No exercise program can outtrain that. Addressing all three removes biological barriers that have been working against you and allows the lifestyle choices you are already making to finally produce the results they should. A practical note on combining them: all three are fat soluble or work best when taken with food. I recommend taking vitamin D and omega 3 together with your largest meal of the day. Ideally, one that contains healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, nuts, or eggs. Magnesium glycinate is best taken in the evening, around 1 hour before bed, where it will do its most powerful work on sleep and cortisol. This 2 time daily approach, vitamin D and omega 3 with dinner, magnesium at bedtime, is the simplest and most research aligned routine. How long before you see results? Be honest with yourself about timelines. Correcting a deficiency and shifting your metabolic environment is a weeks to months process, not a days process. Most women report improved sleep and reduced cortisol cravings within 2 to 4 weeks of consistent magnesium supplementation. Omega 3's effects on inflammation and mood stability tend to build over 6 to 8 weeks. Vitamin D's metabolic effects, once a deficiency is corrected, become more apparent over 3 to 6 months. This is not a quick fix, it is a biological recalibration. But the women who stay consistent with it describe it as the moment things finally started working again. The foundation that makes them work. I want to take a few minutes now to talk about the foundation that makes all three of these work most effectively, because supplements address deficiencies and support biological systems, but they work within the context of your whole life. Protein. This is the single most important dietary change for menopausal weight management, and it works directly alongside all three nutrients we discussed. During menopause, your body loses muscle mass at an accelerated rate, 3 to 8% per decade starting at 30, but faster once estrogen drops. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It burns calories at rest. Less muscle means a slower metabolism, regardless of what you eat or how much you exercise. Research published in 2025 recommends 1.1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily for postmenopausal women, significantly higher than the general recommendation, to preserve lean mass and maintain metabolic rate. Aim for 25 to 30 grams of protein at every meal. This is not just about weight, it is about preserving the metabolic engine that makes everything else possible. Strength training. I want to be direct about this because so many women over 40 have been told that cardio is the answer. Cardio is valuable. But for menopausal weight management, resistance training is essential. Building and maintaining muscle mass raises your basal metabolic rate, the number of calories your body burns simply existing. It improves insulin sensitivity more powerfully than any supplement. It reduces cortisol when done at the right intensity and at the right time of day. Even 2 to 3 sessions per week of moderate resistance training makes a measurable difference to body composition and metabolic health in women over 40. Sleep. I cannot overstate this. Poor sleep raises ghrelin, lowers leptin, increases cortisol, worsens insulin resistance, and directly triggers cravings for the foods that are hardest to lose weight on. 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep is not a luxury during menopause. It is a metabolic intervention. Magnesium, as we discussed, is your most powerful natural tool for improving sleep quality. But the habits around sleep matter too. A cool room, consistent bedtime, and limiting screens and bright light in the hour before bed all support the hormonal environment that allows magnesium to do its best work. Stress. Every hot flash triggers a cortisol spike. Every poor night of sleep raises cortisol. Every emotional challenge of this transition raises cortisol. The single most direct thing you can do alongside your supplement routine is find a consistent daily practice that activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. This does not need to be complicated. 10 minutes of slow breathing, a short meditation, a gentle evening walk, or restorative yoga. The practice matters less than the consistency. Lowering your baseline cortisol is one of the most powerful things you can do for abdominal fat, and no supplement can fully compensate for chronically elevated stress. So let us bring it together. The reason that eating less and moving more has not worked is not because you are doing it wrong. It is because you are fighting a biological problem with a willpower solution. Your body needs biological support that addresses the actual root causes of menopausal weight gain. Vitamin D, deficient in 50 to 80% of menopausal women, restores insulin sensitivity, at the cellular level, supports leptin and appetite regulation, and reduces the inflammatory environment that makes fat loss nearly impossible. Get tested. Supplement if you are deficient. Take it with fat for absorption. I'm magnesium, depleted by both estrogen loss and cortisol, calms cortisol, restores insulin signaling, and supports the deep sleep that keeps your hunger hormones in balance. 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate in the evening, consistent and patient. Omega 3 fatty acids, the most powerful natural anti inflammatory available, reduce the chronic inflammation that is amplifying insulin resistance and blocking fat release. 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA daily, high quality, with a meal. These three nutrients do not work against menopause. They work with your body, giving it what it needs to stop fighting the fat loss process and start supporting it. And they work best alongside the lifestyle foundations that amplify everything: protein at every meal to preserve your metabolic muscle, resistance training to keep that muscle strong, consistent sleep to keep your hunger hormones balanced, and daily stress reduction to keep cortisol from undoing all of it. This is not a transformation that happens in a week, but it is a transformation that happens. And the women who commit to addressing these root causes, who stop blaming themselves and start understanding their biology, are the ones who finally break through the frustration and see their bodies begin to respond. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these three are you most deficient in? Have you had your levels tested? Tell me your age and where you are in this journey. I want to hear from you. I reply to every comment. If this helped you today, please share it with one woman who has been struggling with this in silence. Even though most women are never given this information. You sharing this video could change someone's entire relationship with their body and their health. Click on the next video now, and we go deeper into exactly how to eat during menopause, what foods actively work against weight loss during this transition, and what to add to your plate today. I will see you there.